You're listening to the International Moving Podcast, your guide to moving to another country, brought to you by SDC International Shipping, LA's finest. An international move is exciting. It's a time to start over, establish a new business maybe, reestablish family ties, or retire where your budget will do more for you. Please enjoy today's episode, and if you have any questions about your international move, give us a call at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Jim for SDC International Shipping. Of course, as always, you are listening to the International Moving Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about what it's like to relocate to another country. We talk about everything from the moving process itself to the cost of living, making comparisons from one country to another. But let me just pause that for a moment and interject a few things here. Just before starting today's broadcast, I was thinking a little bit about some of the people that I've talked to who have moved from other countries here to the United States. So, for example, a friend of mine came from Italy, and I met a few of his friends who also came from Italy. My great-grandfather is from Italy also, so I was interested to know what the country was like from his perspective. And then I was thinking, well, the country that my great-grandfather came from and the country that my friend came from, although the same in name, are probably much different experiences because we're talking about different eras, different periods of time. So the more I thought about it, I thought that there really is probably no comparison. But still, I asked him, what was it that made you want to come to the United States? And interestingly enough, the thing that motivated him happened to be the same thing that motivated my great-grandfather, probably on both sides. I know one side for sure. I don't know the complete story behind the other. But what he said is that it was just too hard to make money and to build a business in Italy. Now, of course, I can say from firsthand experience watching what he does here in the U.S., it hasn't exactly been a cakewalk for him, and he does pretty well, and his friends do pretty well here in the United States. And asking him if he compared what he was experiencing here based on what he would have experienced had he remained in Italy to grind it out, does he believe he would have wound up at the same end, at the same place? And he said absolutely not. And what's interesting was when you grow up in the same place and you get used to the same things over and over again, it might be a home state. In his case, it was a home country. But if you struggle long enough, you tend to get this dissatisfaction about wherever it is that you're living. I believe that's one of the reasons why people, not the only reason why, but one of the reasons why people are more mobile today than they've ever been before, because it's much easier to move to another part of your state or move out of state, much easier than it's been in the past, especially the distant past, 100 years ago. And every place that we go to today, everything is modern. All the technologies are there. If you're in one industry in one state, you can be in the same industry in another state, and so on. So as far as moving interstate here in the United States, it's easy to do. And I would say that probably as many people leave their hometowns when they get to a certain age, after they've grown up there, as stay. Maybe even more leave. So I'd like to know what that percentage is. Recently, I had received an invitation to come to a high school reunion. I'm not going to tell you what reunion number it is, but it's getting up there. Let me just leave it at that. And there were about 300 people in my graduating class, and from what I can tell, social media and otherwise, most of those people left the state, left the town at least, and are living somewhere else. So I could say that probably a smaller percentage, less than 10%, actually stayed in the same town. A number stayed in the same state, but not, I would say, the majority. When I look at it, it appears that people moved all over from the other coast, from the East Coast to the West Coast, all up and down the coast, all over the United States. So that's just an observation of mine. So I think that at the end of the day, I guess the reason why I'm bringing this up is if you're at a point where you're thinking, what would it be like to move to another country, to live in a completely different atmosphere? I would say that whether you're younger or you're older, at the end of the day, the thing that you might regret the most is if it's something that you're really enthusiastic about, if it's something that is really on your heart to do, you'll regret not at least making the effort to try and go through the experience firsthand. Because let's face it, whether you're moving out of town to another state, maybe from the suburbs to the city, or to another state, or even just, to Canada or Mexico if you're here in the U.S., or Panama, someplace close, attached by land, so to speak, that at least if you make the effort, it's not like you have to go all in and you cannot move back. If it doesn't work out in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, a friend of mine decided he wanted to move from the East Coast to the West Coast. He wanted to live out there for about 5 years and then come back here, and just so he knows that he did it. And that was like 23 years ago. He never came back. And so he enjoys the fact that the West Coast gives him a combination of beach and mountains and different types of weather throughout the year, as opposed to where he grew up here in the state of Florida, where I'm recording this from. So, you put a lot of effort into researching these areas, maybe go on vacation there. Matter of fact, I'm just looking at the list in front of me right now. These are some of the locations that SDC International Shipping happens to be relocating people to going forward from now to the end of the year. So we have the UK, South Africa, Japan, Australia, Panama, Spain, Italy, Australia again, Germany, Thailand, New Zealand, Dubai, Kenya. Here's one for Romania, Canada, Mexico. So you see, people are mobile. They're going all over the world. Europe is very popular. One of the nice things about Europe, I've mentioned this before, is that if you're moving your household to Europe, and let's say you don't have, you have enough goods, household goods, but you don't have enough to fill up a whole container. You see those long steel containers. Some of them are 20-foot containers. Some of them are 40-foot containers. They're big enough if you want to move your car in a container with your household goods that you can do that. And, you need different size containers depending on how much stuff you have, the volume of stuff that you have. But if you have a smaller volume, you don't have to overpay, let's say, for space that you don't need, because SDC International Shipping offers a groupage service. So in other words, if, let's say, 2 or 3 families, which have a smaller amount of goods to move, if they're moving to the UK, we can put all of our goods into a single container and split the cost. We don't have to worry about that, paying for more than we need, because that's just the situation that we're in. We don't have enough to fill in a whole big container. So SDC International Shipping, we have our own groupage system that has been put together to accommodate you, so you can save quite a bit of money doing it that way. But all of the effort that goes into, maybe you go on vacation to that country, you look into the finances. Finances is going to be big, no matter if you're a digital nomad and you're just traveling with the clothes on your back, so to speak. Maybe you're in your early 20s or you're retiring. You have to have something in place, in other words, financially, so that everything can go smoothly, so that you can get a visa, all of those things. Your finances do have to be in order. And it's funny when you think about all of the planning that goes into getting from here to there, researching housing. If you're going with a company, of course, then you have a lot of extra help. No matter how you slice it, you can get a lot of extra help today. For example, there are groups online where you can meet other expats. You can exchange information with them, where you're going, what the best financial institutions, what the healthcare is like there. You can get all of that. It doesn't have to be a mystery when you get there. So that's one of the great things about the internet. But let's talk a little bit about the move itself, because sometimes people put all of that effort into, and for rightly so, into what their life is going to be like there, how their work is going to line up, all of the technicalities of the documentation that's needed. But let's talk about the move itself, because this is something that you really want to plan for with as much focus. And I don't know if intensity is the right word. Sometimes when you use that word, it sounds like it's synonymous with stress. But you do have to have the plan in place and not let things go to the last minute to avoid putting yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in. So let's cover some of the key aspects, the essential planning tips. Let's talk a little bit about packing strategies and choosing the right transportation method, because you're putting just as much effort into choosing a place to live and deciding how you're going to take care of transportation. Are you going to bring a vehicle? Are you going to use the public transportation there? Where you're going to be banking? Of course, internet is more important to some people than others, especially if you're still working. Usually, you have to have your location set up, whether you're going to rent or buy, all of that stuff. So if you're thinking about relocating overseas or you're already committed to doing it, I think you'll enjoy this episode. Let's just jump right into it and talk about the initial steps in planning for the move. So planning for an international move, of course, it's more than just packing boxes. It requires time. It requires some precision. So as soon as you know when your moving date is, that's the time to maybe sketch out a timeline for yourself and put some key milestones in there, like scheduling the transportation and gathering essential documents and arranging consultations with professional movers like SDC International Shipping. And even for the financial side, maybe you want to talk to your accountant well ahead of time or an attorney if that's necessary. One tip that a lot of people might overlook is keep a designated folder, or in the industry, I believe they call it a moving binder. And in that, you can have everything from contracts to customs forms to personal documents such as your passport, your birth certificate. And it's also wise to maybe include utility bills or other proof of residence or residency. And, it's better to be a little over prepared for this. This is not the kind of stuff that you want to kind of scrap together at the last minute when you're in the middle of packing. That creates unnecessary stress. So put your folder together, start getting these documents in them well ahead of time. And if you never need them, it's better to be over prepared than to try and be at the last minute going through random papers and figuring out how to find whatever it is that you need. Now, when we talk about packing, of course, packing is huge, and this is where things can be a little bit overwhelming for people. So if you're going to work with, let's say, a company like SDC International Shipping, professional packing services are going to make this stage a breeze for you, because you're not going to have to focus on gathering packing materials, figuring out how to put all of the strategy together to pack. If you've ever moved before, I'm probably preaching to the choir. And sure, you can save some money by doing some of the packing for yourself, but just recognize that sometimes, we step over, like the old saying goes, we step over dollars to save dimes. Sometimes it's just better off putting it in the hands of people that do this each and every day. And again, this is just one of the things. If a professional is managing your packing, they'll make sure that all the items are handled with care. This is what they're paid to do. They use approved materials that meet international regulations. And these materials not only protect your items, they streamline the customs process itself. You'll already be paying an international moving company to crate things that you're not capable of doing and to wrap all of the big items. But even when it comes down to other items, like things that are easily broken, lamps, collectibles, all of that, consider having it professionally packed. And that way you know that you can also take out insurance on those items and give yourself an additional peace of mind. Because moving is a big deal. I mean, these are your items, the things that you paid good money for, the things that have value to you, maybe beyond the monetary side of things. So, if you're going to consider packing some items for yourself, just realize that you're going to want to use new cartons, avoid, reusing grocery store boxes or things like that. Regulations often prohibit unapproved wooden crates due to things like pest control standards, so it's better to go professional. And again, you can insure items that have been professionally packed. If you're packing yourself and they haven't been professionally packed, then you're going to run into problems with getting those things insured. Now, when it comes to transportation options, the main question, the top level question is, should you go for air freight or sea freight? Both, of course, have pros and cons. Air freight is known for its speed and reliability, perfect if time is of the essence. So your cargo can reach its destination very quickly, and with added perks, you have the peace of mind. Everything is tracked 24/7. You don't have to worry about that. But if you're looking to ship larger loads or bulkier items, then in most cases, sea freight is going to be the way to go because it's going to be cost effective and it allows you to choose between the full container loads or sharing space with other shipments, the group consolidation that I mentioned. And this is an excellent option if you want to save on shipping costs without compromising on the quality of the service. And of course, I mentioned before vehicle shipping. That's something to keep in mind. You have to ask yourself, and it depends on where you're moving to, of whether or not you'll be able to ship the vehicle if it meets the right criteria. But if you are able to and you do want to take the vehicle with you, we always recommend containerized shipping for vehicles to ensure added protection, especially when combined with household goods. So SDC International Shipping doesn't generally recommend, or seldom if ever, roll-on, roll-off shipping due to its lower security. I mentioned insurance and the importance of insurance. Insurance is just that. We don't bank on the worst thing happening, but it's there to give you that additional layer of peace of mind. So at SDC, there are different types of coverage that you can purchase, including total loss and comprehensive all-risk insurance. Total loss means just that, which means everything is lost. You get reimbursed for the total value of the total loss, whereas total loss doesn't include if one or two items is broken. A total loss policy covers you, again, for the whole thing. Recently, I guess, in the last few years, we saw that accident with the boat hitting the bridge. In that case, there was some total loss, along with loss of life, unfortunately. But also, there's all risk insurance that protects against any type of damage during transit, or you can just insure one or two items within the whole. So international shipping involves multiple stages of handling. And while you hope that nothing goes wrong in the handling, it's wise to be prepared. Accidents happen, things break. Sometimes it's unfortunate. I'm not talking about the things in the container. I'm talking about an accident can happen outside, which affects the container. Seldom happens, but still, that's again why insurance is there. So you can insure items for up to their replacement value at your destination. And again, if you're insuring high value items like a car, that would come into that. So let's just talk about some final tips just for the big picture seamless move. Customs regulations is going to be very important. When you're working with SDC International Shipping, then you'll be working with an expert who understands customs regulations inside out for the particular country that you're moving to. Certain items may face restrictions, but you'll know that ahead of time. Some items may require special permits, and other items may be outright prohibited. I know that food items and things like that, fireworks, anything flammable, those things are considered to be, those things aren't allowed in just about every country and in just about every circumstance. But this is where the inventory comes in. So the team at SDC can assist you with customs. They will assist you with all of the paperwork, and that way you know that all the protocols are met, that you have a list of everything, that the list is accurate, and you won't have to worry about that. And that, again, takes a huge amount of stress. Packing takes a certain amount of stress to go through the process yourself. Having someone else do it removes that. Customs is another thing. Having everything properly labeled, inventory list, again, you can see the benefits of working with a professional. household international moving company that does this each and every day, day in and day out, customers all over the world. So if you work with SDC, you're going to enjoy a stress-free moving experience. The packing, the coordinating, all of the customs details, all of that can be taken off of your hands so that you can focus on all of the other things, like making sure that your accommodations are ready when you get there, or all of the details of you beginning your life in another country. You can start focusing on those things immediately and not have to be sucked into what's happening at moment by moment with your items being moved. That will be taken care of for you. And that's why choosing an experienced moving company like SDC International makes all of the difference. You know, one last thought about living in another country, moving to another country. The people, again, that I've talked to who moved from beautiful countries, Italy, Spain, Portugal, the people I've talked to personally who've come from there and now live in the United States, they already went through the experience of all of the beautiful things those countries had to offer. Some of them moved here in their 30s, some in their 40s, which means they had 30 or 40 years worth of experience in those countries. You and I, for example, here in the United States, or maybe you're in another country listening to this, we have not experienced any of those countries yet. And so all of those things will be brand new to us when we get there. And that is what makes it so exciting. You talk to anybody who's lived in a place for a long period of time, and naturally they're not going to have the same excitement and enthusiasm because it's old hat to them. It's just, it's banal, as the saying goes. It's boring. But for you and I, it's brand new, and it's a new experience, and it's something that we can add to the experiences we've already had. So just something to think about. All right, I think that'll about wrap it up for today. If you haven't subscribed to this podcast, make sure to do so, and that way you don't have to go to the website to find each and every episode as they're released every week. We have a full-length episode that I record for every Monday, and then we have shorter episodes that we release during the week. And so if you have any inquiries at all about the international moving process, you can come by our website, sdcinternationalshipping.com. You can get a free quote there. You can chat with us live there, or you can call us at 877-339-0267 and talk to somebody directly. If you're not one of the people that likes to do things on your phone or on a computer, just know that there'll be a live voice talking to you on the other side of that number, 877-339-0267. Anyway, thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in my next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening. Whether you're relocating within the country or moving to the other side of the world, we're here to help from start to finish. Connect with us today at 888-779-3962. That's 888-779-3962.